interview, recorded on World Mental Health Day 2020, Chris McCann shares his mental health journey. After 18 years, Chris left the Victoria Police Service and went on to work in a number of large national and international companies, establishing fraud investigation, compliance, risk and governance departments. Chris spoke up amidst the eye care media storm that erupted that year after a damning Four Corners program aired, and followed with several major inquiries, including the 2020 parliamentary review.
The issue with mental health is that it's not some sort of physical handicap that you can see. You can't see a person that has lost a limb. You can't see them with a broken arm. Mental health is something that it's invisible, yet you can see it on the face of some people. You can see it in the way that they act at work. Their mood swings. They change a lot. They're absent from work a lot. They won't talk about anything to do with their home life. They don't. Because they're trying to hide something. And I used to work in a place that encouraged people during Are You OK Week to talk about their issues and talk about their stories. But strangely, they talked the talk, but they didn't walk the talk in the workplace. And so you might have a mental health issue, and but you weren't really encouraged to talk up about it because they weren't going to do anything about it anyway. And I saw that firsthand in the last place that I worked. The whole thing about mental health is that it is an invisible problem for an individual. And so therefore, it's a very difficult issue and problem to treat unless you get professional help or people who understand what you are going through or what you have gone through. Do you know, it wasn't until 2017, I've been, despite going through so many incidents in my life, my best friend lost his wife and 2 children killed at Port Arthur. And I was there the following day to see what had happened there. But I've seen him grow still, and now he's, we brought in the gun control. We brought in the Alana and Madeline Foundation to protect children. And he mostly, because he's the one that stands behind it all. I've seen him, he's one of the greatest victims of all time. But when I talk to him, he has grown beyond all expectations. And I think about what Walter went through and what I've gone through, completely different back. Like we're best mates since we were 10 years old. But he's been able to deal with it far better than I have. In the last 3 years, I did discover what was happening. And so to the points that have just been made, I was raising issues about fraud and corruption. I was brought in there to fix up, set policy around, conflicts of interest, fit and proper, procurement, contract management, etc. Within the first month, I started to discover that the people that were in charge were giving huge contracts out to friends, ex-colleagues, etc. And I started to raise this as a concern because that was my job. I started to put in the reports. The reports would be altered before they'd make it to the board. I started raising complaints to the very people that I thought that would listen, and I was hushed up. I was told, keep quiet, it's none of your business, but it was my business. So I continued with that, but each time I would go and say something, my manager was part of the problem because he'd taken a $6,000 trip as well. So I had no one else to go to. So being ignored became part of the problem for me in the workplace. And then I started being disinvited to meetings where I was a key person. And then I also discovered that people weren't talking to me. And it wasn't just in my imagination. And when I then told people about that I discovered that I had HIV, I started getting threatening emails and telling me to, we don't want filthy people like you touching our things. We're watching you. And then getting rubber gloves sent to me. I had survived gunshot wounds, been through all the underbelly stuff, was in Russell Street when the bomb went off, had been to Port Arthur. I had been through so many things, yet those emails and the letter crushed me and stole my confidence. I had a huge amount of confidence in my ability, and I was very successful for so many years in running a business, but it took the wind out of my sails. I'm still coming to terms with a lot of these things, but I am a hell of a lot better now getting professional help.
Yeah, you're still on a massive journey, but and first of all, I wanted to send you all our love. We were totally there with you. So, you've made a whole lot of friends here and online that are really behind your journey to health. What are your self-care practices at the moment?
Well, for years, I've always exercised, and I think back from my early days when I was a child and I was going through things. My escape from my family was playing sport, and it was playing cricket, and I in those days VFL football, Aussie rules football, and so from an early age of 9, my parents would never take me to play sport. I had to go and figure out how to get there, because that was my escape from that horrible environment. And I found that sport and having people around me that were positive and that were just they didn't know what was going on at my family, in my home. But I would turn up, I'd play cricket. I ended up playing at a high level of cricket and also in football. And I found that sport was my release from feeling down or bad. And I continued that forever. And then I remember when I was involved in that shooting, I said, I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about what had happened, not just with the shooting, but with other things that had gone on. So I discovered running, and I ended up then doing, 50 marathons. I would run. And so over the years, I ended up running just long events and running because it helped me stop thinking about problems, because the 10 kilometers, you can think about your speed and how fast you're going and how you're going to get to the 42 kilometer mark. But at 35 kilometers, your pain barrier is there, you're blistering, you're feeling weak. But I put myself into this mindset where I used to think, if you don't do this, then you're a non-achiever or an underachiever. And I used to have this going through my head. And so that became my goal, that became an everyday sort of goal to help me get over trauma. And I still do it to this day, not running, but every day, even though I feel lousy, some days I feel really lousy.
Hope you don't today.
Don't today, but I have, an exercise bike. I have a bike and I have an elliptical. I have weights. I live in the country. I've got 2 dogs. I've got a wife, and there's four kids that are involved. But because of the way I've been lately, it's been hard to connect with all those guys, and I've been spending a lot of time by myself. But my dogs are like my safety blanket, my way of reconnecting with the world and getting my hands dirty in the dirt and looking back at the accomplishments. And it starts to build my confidence. Getting involved in community groups and helping other people has also helped me. And they're the things that are positive things that keep me mentally health safe, I guess is the best way to put it.
Stigma in the workplace can lead to discriminatory behaviour, including harassment, affect people's attitudes and beliefs towards those struggling with their mental health, including themselves, prevent those struggling with their mental health from feeling safe to disclose and seek support from their employer and others around them. An open and inclusive workplace where workers feel safe and supported to seek early help is better for everyone.